Welcome to the Inspiring Illustrations channel. Beyond the Flood, uncovering the secrets of the four ancient lineages. The antediluvian era, known as the pre-flood period, marks an extraordinary chapter in biblical history. Described in the book of Genesis, this era is distinguished by three notable characteristics: the exceptional longevity of humans, significant advancements in technology and culture, and a growing moral and spiritual corruption. The biblical text reveals that the earth was filled with violence and iniquity, leading God to make the decision to purify the world through the flood. The historical fascination with this period lies not only in its mysterious nature, but also in its cultural universality. Ancient civilizations across the globe share similar narratives about a great flood, suggesting deep roots in humanity's collective memory. Archaeological and paleontological evidence further strengthens these ancient narratives, revealing hints of catastrophic events that could correspond to the biblical flood. From a theological perspective, this period establishes a crucial precedent for divine intervention in the world. The progressive moral deterioration of humanity and the subsequent divine decision to send the flood illustrate fundamental themes: divine justice, the need for repentance, and the importance of spiritual renewal. In this video, we will delve into the fascinating history of the four ancient lineages, exploring everything the Bible reveals about these mysterious descendancies. We will examine their origins, characteristics, and the role they played in the events that preceded the flood. Before we proceed, I'd like to extend a special invitation to new viewers. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate notifications so you don't miss any of our Bible studies. The foundational text for this study is found in Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4, a passage that reveals the existence of the sons of God and the giants on earth. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Now there were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and they bore children to them. These were the heroes of old, men of renown. This passage is fundamental for two reasons. First, it introduces the sons of God and the giants, central elements to understanding the antediluvian races. Second, it establishes the context of the moral corruption that culminated in the flood. The Nephilim race. Origin and meaning. The Nephilim are one of the most enigmatic groups mentioned in the Bible. According to Genesis 6, 1-4, the Nephilim were the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of humans. This passage has sparked much debate among theologians and scholars about the true nature and origin of the Nephilim. The term Nephilim is often translated as giants, but its exact meaning is still a subject of discussion. In Hebrew, the word Nephilim comes from the root NPL, which means to fall. This has led some to interpret the Nephilim as fallen ones, possibly referring to their descent from the sons of God, who are sometimes identified as fallen angels. Other ancient sources, such as the Book of Enoch, provide additional context. The Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text not included in the canonical Bible, describes the Nephilim as the offspring of angels who rebelled against God and took human wives. These beings were said to possess great strength and size, making them formidable figures in the antediluvian world. Characteristics and role in society. Physically, the Nephilim are often depicted as giants, possessing extraordinary strength and stature. Their imposing presence would have made them dominant figures in the antediluvian society. The Bible describes them as heroes of old, men of renown, suggesting that they were not only physically powerful but also held significant influence and reputation. The impact of the Nephilim on society was profound. Their existence is often associated with the increasing wickedness and corruption that led to the flood. As beings of immense power, They could have contributed to the violence and moral decay that characterized the antediluvian world. Their interactions with humans, particularly through their parentage, blurred the lines between the divine and the mortal, creating a complex social dynamic. Theories and interpretations. The Nephilim have been the subject of various interpretations, both theological and academic. One common theological interpretation is that the sons of God were fallen angels who mated with human women, producing the Nephilim. This view is supported by references in the Book of Enoch and other ancient texts, which describe a group of angels known as the Watchers who descended to earth and took human wives. Another interpretation suggests that the sons of God were not angels but rather members of a godly lineage, possibly the descendants of Seth, who intermarried with the ungodly descendants of Cain. This view posits that the Nephilim were simply powerful and influential humans, rather than supernatural beings. Academically, some scholars propose that the Nephilim were a mythological representation of ancient heroes or kings, whose stories were exaggerated over time. This perspective sees the Nephilim as part of a broader tradition of giant figures in ancient mythology, similar to the giants of Greek and Norse legends. Despite the various interpretations, the Nephilim remain a mysterious and intriguing part of the biblical narrative. Their story raises questions about the nature of divine-human interactions, the origins of evil, and the complexities of ancient societies. The Cainite race. Lineage of Cain. The lineage of Cain, as described in the Bible, begins with Cain himself, the firstborn son of Adam and Eve. After Cain committed the first murder by killing his brother Abel, he was marked by God and condemned to live as a wanderer. Despite this curse, Cain's descendants played significant roles in the early development of human civilization, as detailed in Genesis chapter 4, verses 17 to 24. Cain's first act after being banished was to build a city, which he named after his son Enoch. This act of city building is significant because it marks the beginning of human settlement and urbanization. It suggests that, despite his curse, Cain sought to contribute to human progress and stability. The descendants of Cain are listed in Genesis, and their contributions to society are noteworthy. Enoch, Cain's son, had a son named Irad. Irad fathered Mehujael, who fathered Methuselah, who in turn fathered Lamech. Lamech is a particularly notable figure in Cain's lineage. He had two wives, Adah and Zillah, and through them, he had several notable children. Adah bore Jabal and Jubal. Jabal is described as the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock, indicating that he was a pioneer in pastoral life, contributing to the development of animal husbandry and nomadic living. His brother Jubal is called the father of all who play stringed instruments and pipes, highlighting his role in the creation and development of music and musical instruments. Zillah, Lamech's other wife, bore Tubal-Cain and Naamah. Tubal-Cain is described as the forger of all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron, indicating that he was a pioneer in metallurgy, contributing to the development of tools and weapons, which had a profound impact on human society by advancing agriculture, warfare, and craftsmanship. Naamah, although not much is said about her in the Bible, is often noted in Jewish tradition as a significant figure, sometimes associated with the arts or other cultural advancements. Technological and cultural developments. The descendants of Cain made several significant contributions to early human civilization. Jabal, as the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock, played a crucial role in the development of pastoralism. This innovation allowed for the domestication of animals and the establishment of nomadic lifestyles, which were essential for the survival and growth of early human communities. Jubal, as the father of all who play stringed instruments and pipes, contributed to the cultural development of music. The creation and use of musical instruments represent one of the earliest forms of artistic expression and cultural development. Music likely played a vital role in social and religious practices, helping to strengthen community bonds and cultural identity. Tubal-Cain's work as a forger of all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron marks a significant technological advancement. The development of metallurgy allowed for the creation of more effective tools and weapons, which had a profound impact on agriculture, warfare, and craftsmanship. These advancements would have enabled early human societies to cultivate land more efficiently, defend themselves more effectively, and create more sophisticated artifacts. Despite their contributions to civilization, the descendants of Cain were also marked by internal conflicts and moral decay. Lamech, a descendant of Cain, is known for his violent boast in Genesis chapter 4, verses 23 to 24, where he declares to his wives that he has killed a man for wounding him and a young man for injuring him. This passage, often referred to as the Song of the Sword, is seen as an indication of the increasing violence and moral decline in human society following the fall. The story of Cain and his descendants illustrates the dual nature of human progress. While they contributed significantly to technological and cultural advancements, they were also plagued by violence and moral corruption. This moral decay and internal conflict among the Cainites contributed to the overall corruption of the antediluvian world, which ultimately led to God's decision to send the flood as a means of purifying the earth. The Sethite race. Lineage of Seth. The lineage of Seth begins with Seth himself, the third son of Adam and Eve, born after the death of Abel and the banishment of Cain. According to Genesis chapter 4, verse 25, Eve named him Seth, saying, "God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him." Seth's birth is significant because it represents the continuation of a godly lineage, distinct from the line of Cain. Seth's descendants are detailed in Genesis chapter 5, which provides a genealogy from Adam to Noah. This lineage includes notable figures such as Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and finally Noah. Each of these individuals played a crucial role in maintaining the worship of God and upholding moral and spiritual values in a world increasingly filled with corruption and violence. Enosh, the son of Seth, is particularly significant because it is during his time that people began to call on the name of the Lord, Genesis chapter 4, verse 26. This marks the beginning of organized worship and a collective turning towards God, setting the Sethites apart as a people devoted to spiritual practices and moral living. Pious life and contributions. The Sethites are often depicted as living pious lives, dedicated to the worship of God and the maintenance of moral standards. This is in stark contrast to the descendants of Cain, who are associated with violence and moral decay. The Sethites' commitment to God is exemplified by figures such as Enoch, who walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more because God took him away, Genesis chapter 5, verse 24. Enoch's life is a testament to the deep spiritual connection and righteousness that characterized the Sethite lineage. The contributions of the Sethites to spirituality and morality are significant. They maintained the worship of God through prayer, sacrifices, and righteous living. This dedication helped preserve a remnant of faithful followers in a world that was becoming increasingly corrupt. The Sethites' emphasis on moral and spiritual values provided a counterbalance to the growing wickedness of the antediluvian society. One of the most notable contributions of the Sethites is the figure of Noah, a direct descendant of Seth. Noah is described as a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God, Genesis chapter 6, verse 9. Noah's faithfulness and obedience to God led to his selection to build the ark and preserve humanity and animal life through the flood. This act of salvation underscores the importance of the Sethite lineage in God's plan for humanity. The conflict between the Sethites and the Cainites is a central theme in the antediluvian narrative. The Cainites, descendants of Cain, are often associated with violence, moral corruption, and technological advancements that were used for destructive purposes. In contrast, the Sethites are depicted as upholding spiritual and moral values, creating a clear dichotomy between the two lineages. This conflict is not just a physical one, but also a spiritual and moral struggle. The intermarriage between the sons of God, interpreted by some as the Sethites, and the daughters of humans, interpreted as the Cainites, in Genesis chapter 6, verse 2, symbolizes the blending of these two lineages and the resulting moral decline. This union led to the birth of the Nephilim, who further contributed to the corruption and violence that characterized the antediluvian world. The moral and spiritual decay resulting from this intermingling is one of the factors that led to God's decision to send the flood. The Sethites' struggle to maintain their piety and moral integrity in the face of growing wickedness highlights the challenges of living a righteous life in a corrupt world. Their story serves as a reminder of the importance of faithfulness and obedience to God, even in the midst of widespread moral decline. The race of giants. Definition and origin. The giants mentioned in the Bible and other ancient sources are often described as beings of extraordinary stature and superhuman strength. In the Bible, they are referred to as Nephilim, who were supposedly the offspring of fallen angels and human women. Other ancient cultures, such as the Greeks and the Norse, also have myths about giants, suggesting a common origin or a cultural need to explain natural and social phenomena through imposing figures. Giants are described as possessing height and physical strength far beyond normal human capabilities. These characteristics made them feared and revered figures. In society, giants were often seen as powerful warriors or tyrannical rulers, capable of great feats of strength but also causing destruction. Their cultural impact is evident in various legends and myths that portray them as formidable adversaries for human heroes. There are several theories about the existence of giants, ranging from literal interpretations of ancient texts to more symbolic explanations. Some archaeologists and historians suggest that the accounts of giants may be based on discoveries of large prehistoric animal bones, which were misinterpreted as the remains of giant humans. Others point to archaeological evidence of abnormally large human skeletons found in various parts of the world, although many of these findings are controversial and debated within the scientific community. The spiritual and moral context. Corruption and violence. Before the flood, the earth was rife with corruption and violence. According to Genesis chapter 6, verse 11, the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. This corruption was not limited to moral decay, but extended to every aspect of human life. People had turned away from God's commandments, engaging in acts of wickedness and injustice. The prevalence of violence and moral corruption was so severe that it grieved God, leading him to decide to cleanse the earth through the flood. The Bible describes a world where every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. Genesis chapter 6, verse 5. This pervasive wickedness manifested in various forms, including murder, theft, and widespread immorality. The societal breakdown was complete, with no regard for justice or righteousness. This environment of unchecked sin and violence created a world that was hostile to the principles of divine order and harmony. The influence of the fallen angels, or sons of God, played a significant role in the corruption of humanity. These beings who rebelled against God descended to earth and took human wives, resulting in the birth of the Nephilim, as described in Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 to 4. These Nephilim were giants and men of renown, but their presence further exacerbated the moral decay of the antediluvian world. The fallen angels introduced practices and knowledge that were contrary to God's will, leading humanity further into sin. Their interactions with humans blurred the lines between the divine and the mortal, creating a hybrid race that contributed to the increasing wickedness on earth. The Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text, elaborates on this narrative, describing how the fallen angels taught humans various forbidden arts, including weapon-making and sorcery, which led to greater violence and corruption. In the midst of this widespread corruption, figures like Noah emerged as beacons of righteousness. Noah is described as a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God, Genesis chapter 6, verse 9. Despite the pervasive wickedness around him, Noah remained faithful to God's commandments and lived a life of integrity. God chose Noah to build the ark and preserve a remnant of humanity and animal life through the flood. For 120 years, Noah worked on the ark, all the while preaching to the people about the impending judgment and calling them to repentance. His efforts, however, were met with mockery and disbelief. The people continued in their sinful ways, ignoring Noah's warnings and the opportunity for redemption. Noah's steadfastness in the face of such adversity highlights the importance of faith and obedience to God. His story serves as a powerful reminder of the need for repentance and the consequences of ignoring divine warnings. The flood, while a judgment on the wickedness of humanity, also represents a new beginning and the possibility of renewal for those who remain faithful to God's will. The flood. Noah's preparations. Noah's preparations for the flood were extensive and meticulous, guided by divine instructions. According to Genesis chapter 6, verses 14 to 16, God commanded Noah to build an ark of cypress wood, with specific dimensions, 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. A cubit is approximately 18 inches, making the ark about 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. The ark was to have 3 decks, a roof, and a door on its side. Noah's task was monumental. He had to gather materials, construct the ark, and ensure it was sturdy enough to withstand the coming deluge. This process likely took many years, during which Noah also had to gather food and supplies for his family and the animals that would join them on the ark. God instructed Noah to bring 2 of every kind of living creature, male and female, to keep them alive during the flood. Additionally, Noah was to take 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal and bird, which were suitable for sacrifices and food. Noah's obedience and faith were crucial during this period. Despite the skepticism and mockery from those around him, Noah remained steadfast in his mission, trusting in God's plan and preparing for the unprecedented event that was to come. The flood itself was a cataclysmic event that reshaped the earth. According to Genesis chapter 7, verses 11 to 12, all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened. Rain fell on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, covering even the highest mountains to a depth of more than 20 feet. As the waters rose, the ark was lifted high above the earth, floating on the surface of the floodwaters. Every living thing on the face of the earth perished: birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. Only Noah and those with him in the ark survived. The waters flooded the earth for 150 days before they began to recede. The immediate consequences of the flood were devastating. The landscape was transformed, with familiar landmarks submerged and the entire ecosystem disrupted. The floodwaters eventually receded, and the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Noah and his family, along with the animals, emerged from the ark to a cleansed and renewed world. The flood holds profound theological significance in the biblical narrative. It represents God's judgment on a corrupt and violent world, demonstrating his intolerance for sin and his commitment to justice. The flood serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of human wickedness and the seriousness with which God views moral corruption. However, the flood is also a story of salvation and renewal. Noah's faithfulness and obedience to God provided a means of preservation for humanity and the animal kingdom. The ark symbolizes God's provision and protection for those who remain faithful to him. After the flood, God established a covenant with Noah, promising never to destroy the earth with a flood again. The rainbow was given as a sign of this covenant, representing God's mercy and the hope of a new beginning. The flood narrative underscores the themes of judgment, salvation, and covenant. It highlights the importance of righteousness and obedience to God, while also offering a message of hope and renewal. The story of Noah and the flood continues to resonate as a powerful example of divine justice and grace. Post-flood consequences. Repopulation of the earth. After the floodwaters receded, Noah, his wife, their 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives emerged from the ark to a cleansed earth. This small group of 8 people was tasked with repopulating the earth. In Genesis chapter 9, verse 1, God blessed Noah and his sons, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth." This command mirrored the initial blessing given to Adam and Eve, emphasizing continuity in God's plan for humanity. The 3 sons of Noah became the ancestors of different groups of people, as outlined in the genealogies of Genesis chapter 10, often referred to as the Table of Nations. Shem is associated with the Semitic peoples, including the Hebrews, Assyrians, and Arameans. Ham is linked to the peoples of Africa and parts of the Near East, including the Egyptians and Canaanites. Japheth is associated with the peoples of Europe and Asia Minor, including the Greeks and Medes. This genealogical record illustrates the spread of nations and languages across the earth, fulfilling God's command to multiply and fill the earth. The flood brought about significant social and cultural changes. The immediate aftermath saw a renewed emphasis on obedience to God and the establishment of new societal norms. Noah's family, as the sole survivors, had to rebuild human society from the ground up. This included re-establishing agriculture, animal husbandry, and other essential aspects of daily life. One of the most significant changes was the introduction of new dietary laws. In Genesis chapter 9, verses 3 to 4, God permitted Noah and his descendants to eat meat, with the stipulation that they must not consume blood. This marked a shift from the primarily plant-based diet of the pre-flood world and introduced new cultural practices related to food preparation and consumption. The flood also led to a heightened awareness of human mortality and the consequences of sin. The survivors and their descendants would have been acutely aware of the reasons for the flood and the importance of living in accordance with God's commandments. This awareness likely influenced the development of religious practices and moral codes in post-flood societies. The legacy of the 4 races, Nephilim, Cainites, Sethites, and Giants, continues to influence theology and culture to this day. The Nephilim, often associated with giants, are remembered as beings of great strength and stature, whose existence contributed to the moral corruption of the antediluvian world. Their story raises questions about the nature of divine-human interactions and the origins of evil. The Cainites, descendants of Cain, are often seen as symbols of human ingenuity and moral failure. Their contributions to early civilization, such as advancements in agriculture, music, and metallurgy, are acknowledged, but their legacy is also marked by violence and moral decay. This duality serves as a cautionary tale about the potential consequences of human innovation divorced from ethical considerations. The Sethites, descendants of Seth, are remembered for their piety and faithfulness to God. Their lineage includes notable figures such as Enoch and Noah, who exemplify righteousness and obedience. The Sethites' legacy underscores the importance of maintaining spiritual and moral integrity in the face of widespread corruption. The giants, often conflated with the Nephilim, are remembered in various cultural myths and legends as formidable adversaries. Their stories have been interpreted in numerous ways, from literal beings of immense size to symbolic representations of human challenges and struggles. Together, these four races provide a rich tapestry of narratives that continue to shape theological discussions and cultural expressions. Their stories offer insights into the complexities of human nature, the consequences of sin, and the enduring importance of faith and righteousness. Summary of key points. Throughout this exploration, we have delved into the rich and complex narratives of the antediluvian world and its aftermath. We began by examining the historical context of the pre-flood era, characterized by long human lifespans, significant technological and cultural advancements, and increasing moral and spiritual corruption. This set the stage for understanding the profound impact of the flood. We then explored the four ancient lineages: the Nephilim, the Cainites, the Sethites, and the giants. Each of these groups contributed uniquely to the antediluvian society. The Nephilim, often depicted as giants, were the offspring of fallen angels and human women, embodying both physical prowess and moral ambiguity. The Cainites, descendants of Cain, were innovators in agriculture, music, and metallurgy, but were also marked by violence and moral decay. The Sethites, descendants of Seth, were known for their piety and faithfulness to God, providing a counterbalance to the corruption around them. The giants, often conflated with the Nephilim, were formidable figures in various cultural myths and legends. We also discussed the spiritual and moral context before the flood, highlighting the pervasive corruption and violence that led to God's decision to cleanse the earth. The influence of the fallen angels further exacerbated this moral decay, while figures like Noah stood as beacons of righteousness, calling humanity to repentance. The flood itself was a cataclysmic event that reshaped the earth, followed by Noah's meticulous preparations and the eventual repopulation of the earth by his family. This period marked significant social and cultural changes, including new dietary laws and a renewed emphasis on obedience to God. Finally, we examined the legacy of the four races and their lasting impact on theology and culture. These narratives continue to shape our understanding of human nature, the consequences of sin, and the importance of faith and righteousness. Understanding these ancient stories and their secrets is crucial for several reasons. Firstly, they offer profound insights into the human condition, illustrating the timeless struggle between good and evil, obedience and rebellion, and faith and doubt. These narratives remind us of the importance of maintaining moral and spiritual integrity, even in the face of widespread corruption. Secondly, these stories highlight the consequences of human actions and the importance of divine justice and mercy. The flood serves as a powerful reminder of God's intolerance for sin and his commitment to justice, while also offering a message of hope and renewal through the covenant with Noah. Lastly, these ancient narratives continue to influence contemporary theology and culture. They provide a rich tapestry of themes and lessons that resonate with people across different cultures and eras. By studying these stories, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of human nature and the enduring relevance of these ancient texts. In conclusion, the exploration of the antediluvian world and its aftermath offers valuable lessons for understanding our past, navigating our present, and shaping our future. These stories remind us of the importance of faith, righteousness, and the ever-present possibility of renewal and redemption.